Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had your lunch and are filled with energy and enthusiasm to continue with the workshop. We now have a very exciting session that will definitely help you in the preparation of the competition. Now, I would like to welcome Ms. Kainat Kundi to share her views on the topic drafting of plans. Ma'am, don't need an introduction as she is a well recognized figure in the field of arbitration and mediation. Ms. Pundi graduated from OP Jindal Global University and done her master's in negotiation. Ms. Pundi is a corporate lawyer who is an expert in mergers and acquisition, private equity, and venture capital. Ma'am is a well-trained in mediation advocacy and specialized in resolving civil and commercial disputes. Ms. Pundi is a co-founder of Sankalp. Ms. Pundi has a very good experience in the field of mediation. She is an international civil mediator in ADR ODR International Limited. Ma'am had contributed to cultural growth by training University of Benin, Nigeria team for APIIT Law School International Negotiation Competition 2022. She was awarded at 8th NLIU INEDR International Mediation Tournament 2021 for her contribution. Ms. Pundi is also skilled in the area of legal aid, pro bono, and many. Ma'am was also a part of Global Negotiation Conference 2021. It is an honor for all of us to have you today with us. With this, we invite Ms. Kainat Pundi.
Thank you so much, Archie, for that lovely introduction. I'm very happy to be here. And with that, we can start with the session. If you could just help me understand what is the time that we have for the session today?
Ma'am, the session is expected. Your timings will be of half an hour, but you may continue if you want.
All right, perfect. So let's start with the session. First of all, congratulations to all the participants in terms of being here. And I'm really excited for all the learning that you have ahead of you in this competition. And it will give you unparalleled exposure to the field of negotiation and mediation. Now, jumping straight to the topic of drafting a mediation plan or a negotiation plan. Essentially, the idea behind drafting a plan, right, is that as a participant to a negotiation, you need to prepare going in what are your interests as a party, what is it that you want to get out of the negotiation, right? So by the end of it, to get the result that you're looking for, which is to the best of your interests, but also to the benefit of the other party's interest. Now, please note when I say that it's also to the interest of other parties' interest, is when we talk about negotiation, we're specifically looking at the concept of win-win negotiation, which means there's not just you winning a negotiation by getting all that you need, but also collaborating with the other side, helping them get what they need in terms of their interests, so that both sides can end up going happy from the negotiation table. Now, when I say that it has to be a win-win solution by the end of it, right? It sounds like a very happy ending to the whole negotiation, but how do we get there? In terms of the negotiation problem that you would have for your competition or any mediation that you participate in, it's always important to first start with understanding who is the party that you are representing. It might be your client, or you might be the client in that particular dispute. So as a party, the first thing that you do is sit down, read the dispute that is in front of you, and understand what are the interests at stake, what is the position that's given to you, right? Now, when I say what is the interest and what is the position, there's a very key difference between the two, wherein a position might be that as a party say that the dispute between the two parties is that party A was supposed to deliver 20 quintals of a good to party B within 30 days. However, that delivery has still not been made. Another 10 days have passed, right? Whereas party B has already made the payment for that. So party A's position is quite straightforward, that due to the circumstances they are facing, they're unable to deliver the goods. Party B, on the other hand, their position is that they want the goods to be delivered. at the earliest, given the fact that they have made the payment. However, there might be different interests involved in each side. When I say that, what I mean is party A, there has to be a reason why there has been a delay in giving these goods. Is it that there has been a natural calamity that has impacted their process of transportation? Is it that the contract that they have with the transportation person, that is not valid anymore? So that is their interest, that, okay, what is it that we need to deal with in order to ensure that we can come past the common problem that both the parties are facing. For party B, on the other hand, the interest is not just merely getting the goods, but it is why they require the goods, right? So the why tells you what is it that is driving both the parties to stand so strong in their position. Why is it that party B requires the goods to be delivered immediately? Why is it that party A is unable to deliver the goods, right? And what is it that party A can bring to the table, even though the timeline for delivering those goods has gone beyond? Now, that we've taken this as an example, let's take this further, right? So, do I have access to share my screen? Okay.
You do, ma'am. You do.
All right. Perfect. So let me know if you can see the format of the mediation plan on your screens. Okay. So as you can see from the format, there are different parts that you need to cover as part of a mediation plan, right? That in anticipation of what is it that the conversation is going to happen in the negotiation. The only way to have a fruitful negotiation is like any other event, that if you're going to have that conversation, you need to be prepared for what are your interests. What do you think is possibly the interest of the other side? What is the conversation that they want to have? And what is the potential goal that they want to achieve, right? As a party, you know what is it that you want by the end of it. But you can't achieve it until and unless you're helping the other party also achieve what they want. So that is where your mediation plan becomes very crucial. So let's take this one step at a time in terms of the different components of the mediation plan. Number one being your mediation strategy. Number two is what is the goal of the mediation. Number three, are there any alternative means to achieve that goal? Number four, what are the needs in the interest of the requesting party? Number five, the needs and interests of the responding party. Number six, what is the best alternative to the negotiated agreement, the partner? And number seven, that's the worst alternative to the negotiated agreement. I'm assuming by this time, all of you have heard about partner partner. That's a very crucial concept, and we will get to that by the end of it. Starting with the first component, that's the mediation strategy. Essentially, what you do while looking at what is the strategy that you want to adopt, you go into the details of, okay, if this is the interest that I have, what is the best way of tackling it, right? So what that might mean is that as part of your dispute, if there are three different agenda items that you want to discuss on the table, which is the number one agenda item that you want to take priority on, right? As a party, you would see that if, and this is the psychological element of negotiation which comes into play, that when you see that as a party, you bring up an agenda item, and that is an agenda item that you can really go out of your way and help the other party achieve their goals, you would want to prioritize that. Idea being that once the party sees that you're being collaborative from the very start, it really pulls them apart from the original position that we are at, right? Because if there's a dispute that is bringing the parties to the table, it's always coming from a place where the parties have certain amount of distrust, where they're looking to get the best outcome for themselves and are not sure of what the other party has to offer. But if you start the mediation on a very front foot, where you're telling the other party that, okay, this is the number one thing that we want to discuss, and this is how we can help you get what you want to achieve, right? So simple questions in terms of, okay, this is the dispute that we are faced with. Help me understand how can I help you get what's best for you, right? Asking those open questions of what is it that the other party really needs helps you understand, okay, that this is what their need is. I know these are my strengths as a party. This is what I can bring to the table. What is it that I can do to make the other party comfortable, to make them confident, and to make them trust me again that I will help them in the resolution of this dispute. So that is the part in the mediation strategy where you talk about what is the priority of the agenda items that you want to discuss. You will talk about that what are the agenda items that are more important for you, why is it important, or how would you put it forward? So if you see that there's certain amount of distrust between the parties, you would say, okay, we can have this conversation, or this is a goodwill gesture that we can show as a party, that, say, for example, in this case, if the party doesn't trust the quality of the product that you have supplied to them. Very simple solution. That's where your goodwill just comes out of thin air. It doesn't cost you a lot, but it goes a long way in building that relationship and the trust with the other party. If they don't trust your quality, what's the easiest thing you can do, right? There's definitely a quality assurance process that you follow internally. Easiest thing is make an offer to the other side. Why don't I get your product manager come into my factory, and we can have him review the very stringent quality assurance process that all of our products go through, so that we are being very transparent about all the processes that we are following. We are being very transparent about what we are doing to help you get the best product that you can get, right? So this is part of your mediation strategy. The point behind how to go about rather strategizing is understanding what is important for you, but also preempting what is important for the other party. If you see that there's something that's important for the other party, say in terms of trust and ensuring that you are giving them the right quality of product, have that confidence to have the difficult conversation first, to take that first step in making an offer in order to get the party closer to you and to get them on the same line of eyesight, where both of you are willing to collaborate on things before you start fighting on things that you're unable to agree to, right? Always starting from that positive note, it changes the mediation psychology on the table. It allows the parties to move forward beyond the dispute on the table. Now, second point in the mediation plan being, what is the goal of the mediation, right? In a simple case of delivery of goods, it's as simple as that. You want the goods to be delivered. If it is that the quality of goods that have been delivered to you is not meeting the standard, the goal is that you want to ensure that the quality of goods that are delivered meet their expectation. But those are the main goals. Whenever you see a dispute, there's a very clear goal that you want, right? If this dispute was not there, what will the perfect relationship between the parties look like? That is the goal that you're looking at, right? Always remember that before a dispute, there was a time that parties trusted each other. There was a time that they looked at the strengths that each party was getting to the other in terms of this relationship. And that is why they ended up entering into a relationship, which might have later led to a particular dispute. However, both of them saw that there is considerable strengths that both of them are bringing to each other's businesses or to each other's lives. And that is why they entered into an agreement of some sort in the first place, right? So always remember that when you're looking at the goal of the mediation, it doesn't have to be as simple and straightforward as just black and white of, okay, if this is not delivered, this has to be delivered. Also look at the broader goals, right? There's always a relationship element to any dispute, right? You always look at that as business partners. If you came to the table, what was it that drove both the parties to come and have that discussion in the first place? How they're going to help each other, right? So always also keep these ancillary goals in mind, that, okay, this is how I can help the other party achieve what they want. But what is it that I can do to build a relationship? What are the smaller things? The human elements of the negotiation are always something that are going to make you take an extra step, but also convince the other party to take that extra step and help you achieve what you are looking to achieve. So that is the second part of your mediation plan. Coming to the third, that is alternative means to achieve the goal, right? When we are faced with a dispute, we put these blinders on as horses, that, okay, this is the dispute. If we were to get what we haven't got, that's the resolution of the dispute, right? It's not always that easy. If you're asking a party to give you to deliver goods to you, but say what has happened is the whole consignment has been destroyed en route, there is no way that they can ensure that that whole consignment is delivered to you or is delivered in that quality, right? However, that is answering the question, what is it the other party wants? If you go to the deeper questions of the need and interest, which is the fourth part of the mediation plan, you'll understand why is it that the other party wants, right? If it is a promise that they have made to further suppliers, that this is a consignment that we have paid for, basis which we have further business relationships, and we will have to service those contracts. Therefore, we require these goods to be delivered. Then once you understand that, then you see, okay, what are the alternative means to achieving this goal, right? It might not be the first time that the party has seen a case where their goods have been destroyed. there'll always be other contingencies. If it's about the money, is there an alternative means, say, in terms of an insurance plan that you have in place, which can help you pay back that money to the other party? If it's not the money, if the priority is why they want the goods is because they have other contractual obligations and they have to service those obligations only by providing the goods, that means that you have to look for new alternative means of, if I can't provide those goods, is there anyone else in my network who can? Do I have any other people in the business that I'm connected with or who I have worked with, who I can ensure that at a shorter notice, they can provide me in making good for the difference between the goods that I was supposed to deliver and that I was able to deliver, right? All of these solutions are solutions that you will think of only when you're thinking of why is it that the other party needs what they need. It doesn't, just because the other party needs something that you are unable to provide does not mean that they don't trust you, does not mean that there is no way to go beyond this. It just means that you're not looking at all possible solutions. It means that you need to look beyond what you know to be the truth of the dispute. You need to see it, what is it that really drives the interests of the other party. With that, we come to the fourth part, which is the need and interest of the requesting party. And we're going to discuss this along with the fifth part, that is the need and interest of the responding party. So in any dispute, the first party that takes the step towards calling the other party to the table is your requesting party, and the other party to the dispute becomes the responding party. Now, taking the example where you are the requesting party, it becomes easy for you to understand what are your needs and interests. You will understand the positions that you as a party want from the general information that is given to you, which gives you the background of the dispute, which helps you understand what is it that has brought both the parties there. If we go a step further, if you look at your confidential information, it will give you more details of why is it that you want a particular thing. Those details, understanding what is it that's driving you as a party and your interest, that is where it becomes the important question of why is it that I want the goods to be delivered, or why is it that I want the money to be paid to me within the next 30 days. What is the value addition that that particular interest is bringing to that party? That is what's important to understand. So as the requesting party or as the responding party, it becomes simpler to understand your needs and interests. But however, when we are looking at it from our perspective, we forget to step into the shoes of the other party. It is also important to step into their shoes and see, okay, what are the potential needs and interests? Now, remember that this whole conversation that we are having is in the preparation of the mediation. That means any potential interest that you think of for the other party, they might not necessarily be the interest. However, that does not mean that we don't need to prepare for that. The idea is that we need to be prepared for what are the potential interests that might be driving the other party. Is it that they have to service another contract? Is it that time is of essence because they have their lenders to pay out? And therefore, if the money is not delivered, say within the next 2 months, the particular company can go into bankruptcy. Then you see that what is the key, that even if you are unable to pay that money, if you can ensure that the money gets to the other party through some other means, you are able to service their interest, particular interest of ensuring that they have enough liquidity to keep continuing their business. Because remember that the underlying relationship between the two businesses, it will have no meaning if you're unable to service that interest of ensuring that the other party has liquidity. Because what is of utmost importance for them, for you, without understanding what the underlying need or interest is, it might seem like the tip of the iceberg that they just want the money. But why is it that the other party wants the money? Look at the different factors that come into play. It could be that do they need it for their business to be an ongoing entity? Is it that they have someone else to pay if it's part of a supply chain contract? Then is there someone else down the line whose payments are being delayed? And therefore, there might be extra costs that that the other party is enduring for every day that they're not making those payments, right? Think of these potential needs and interests. It doesn't have to be bang on, but it helps you understand that if this is the other party's potential interest, what do we do from there? Where do we go? We think about that, okay, if this is their interest, if they want money within the 15 days, I don't have money with me. But what is it that I have? Is it connections that I have who can help me who can ensure that they get the money? Is it some insurance policy that I have that I can make the best use of? Is it that I have good connections with lenders in the market who can provide me that capital at a short-term rate? And which can help me provide that money to the other party. But over another 2-3 months, I can easily repay that money when I am more solvent or when I have more liquidity in my own hands, right? Now, this is a conversation that you can only have with the other party if you're already prepared, if you're preempting what are the underlying interests. Idea is that in a negotiation, there will always be cases that what is happening in the what happens in terms of the conversation, it might not always be something that you have preempted. But if you're given yourself the time to genuinely sit down and think what are the different needs and interests, you're also thinking of the conversation, that if this is the interest, if this is the interest that I cannot service, what is it that I can do for the other party? What is the solution that I have? Is there any interest that I can help with? So with that, I just want to highlight another important principle within negotiation is of tradable interest. So what that essentially means is that as individual parties, there are always certain strengths that you have, right? And becomes important in order to ensure that you're coming up with alternative means to achieve the goal or coming up with really creative solutions, that you understand what are the strengths that you have. So if you're a party who has been, so if you're a business who has been in the manufacturing system for a long time, that means you have strong relationships throughout the industry, right? So if the other party wants that, okay, if you are unable to service these goods, is there anyone else in your network who you might be subcontracting with who can provide me these goods? It doesn't necessarily have to be that, okay, without any charge that you have to provide me those goods, but just the fact that the other party necessarily, because they're not in the manufacturing industry themselves, they do not have that connect. They can't directly reach out to people, or even if they can, they might not get the quality assurance because they don't have the experience, they don't have the exposure of knowing which is a good company as compared to other and whose products can be trusted. But given the fact that you bring in that experience, you bring in that exposure to a particular industry, that is a strength that you have. What I mean by that is that if you bring a certain contact of yours where you say that, okay, ABC Limited is the best quality assurance product in the market right now, and this is a company that I have worked with, so I can assure you that whatever product you get out of it, it will be the best. And because we have a long-standing relationship, they'll also allow for a more flexible payment given the situation that all of us find ourselves in, right? Now imagine party B coming to ABC Limited as a random stranger, unsure of whether the quality will match up, what is the kind of contract that we can get into, how will it ensure getting us out of the current dispute. All of those factors are factors that party B themselves have to look at. However, if we look at the strength of party A, that they already have that connection in the market, they already have certain expertise. That is where we build it, that it is a very simple thing for you to do is to just connect two people that you know, right? But it makes a huge difference in terms of the value that you're adding to party B. Because without this, party B would have had to spend a lot of money doing their due diligence, figuring out which is the best company. All of that money is value addition that you're giving to them. That, okay, don't waste your time, don't waste your precious resources in figuring out who's the best company, because we can bring you right to them. We can, because of our existing relationship, we can ensure that you get a better offer than any other person would provide you for the same, right? So that sort of value addition is addition that you're making to the other party's interest. When you do that as a party, that is a tradable interest, that it is not very important for you in terms of introducing them to your contact. However, it becomes very important for the other party because it helps them resolve the issues that they were facing as part of this dispute. And when you help the other party do that, they're also more likely to respond similarly and to go out of their way to figure out, okay, if my requesting party has done this, what is it that I can do for them? What is the expertise that I can bring to them so that the dispute at their end also gets resolved as quickly as possible. Now, having discussed that, we come to the 6th and 7th points, which is the best alternative to the negotiated agreement and the worst alternative to the negotiated agreement. Okay, so let's make this very clear. What that essentially means is a negotiated agreement is after a negotiation, if there's an agreement that is reached between the two parties, that is an agreement that both of them are agreeing to reach, right? That means it's been a successful negotiation. When we are talking about an alternative to the negotiated agreement, That means if the parties are unable to reach a agreement by the end of the negotiation, what else will happen outside of the negotiation table, right? Best alternative or worst alternative does not mean different options or different goals that you can achieve on the negotiation table. It means outside of the negotiation table, if this negotiation was to fail or if it was not to go through, or for some reason parties couldn't see eye to eye, what are the best thing, or what is the best case scenario, and what is the worst case scenario that could happen. So worst case scenario a lot of time tends to end up being either going to arbitration or taking a case to court, right? Because as lawyers we also train that whenever you see a dispute, the first thing you do is go file for an injunction, file for a case for remedy against that other person, right? So that is the alternative that is happening outside the negotiation table. That if you were to do nothing as a party to help the other party or to help achieve your interest, what is the alternative thing that is happening outside? The worst alternative tends to be that if there's a court case going, you lose that court case. That means you might have to pay damages. You would have to pay, you would have to incur huge costs in terms of the legal fees, in terms of the time value. That if you are an owner of a business and this is a business which might be going insolvent, now you're putting all of those resources in ensuring that you win this case. As a manager, you're unable to put in your time and energy into the running of the business, and you're spending more time in figuring out how is it that I can resolve this dispute, right? And at the top of it, if all things don't go well in your favor, that is the worst alternative. So my best advice in terms of figuring out what is your worst alternative is apply Murphy's law, right? Whatever can go wrong goes wrong. If everything that is out of your control goes wrong, where is it that leaves you as a party, right? What is your worst alternative if you have no control over the situation that you find yourself? So taking us back to the problem of delivery of those goods, if there is no way that the person can deliver to them, you have not had a conversation that, okay, what are the alternatives? That means you don't have those goods. You have made your payment. There's possibly a court case that is undergoing, but you've lost that court case, and there are additional damages or lawyer fees to be paid. All of this is your worst alternative situation. Also, remember one thing is that mostly there might be a court case involved, which makes it very easy to determine what is your best alternative and worst alternative, because worst alternative ends up becoming everything that you've asked for in your court case goes against you, right? You're made to pay damages, you don't win the case, you're the losing party at the end of it, right? And the best alternative becomes that you win the case, it's decided in your favor, you probably get damages from the other party. Maybe the court has also ordered for your legal fees to be paid by the other party, right? All of these are your best alternative in case of a court case. Now, the court case is always the most easiest and straightforward way of thinking that, okay, this is the alternative. But what else is there, right? Looking at the bigger picture in terms of what all is involved. If this is a manufacturing company, and because of this, say an injunction is passed that they can't undertake any further manufacturing in their manufacturing site. That means they're also facing losses under other contracts. That means that possible disputes potentially that can arise from those breach of contracts if this injunction is placed in order, right? So idea is to look at what are the other things that might be impacted if everything that can go wrong goes wrong. So that will give you a worst alternative. The best alternative is everything that is out of your control. If it goes in your favor, what is the best situation that can happen, right? So if you wanted goods, maybe you find someone else who can provide you those goods. You find someone else who can provide you those goods at a good alternative. But also always remember, when we're talking about best case scenario and the worst case scenario, it is good to keep it as completely positive and completely negative, that if everything was to go completely in your favor or if it was not to go in your favor. However, at the same time, also remember that it doesn't, it also has to be within reasonable bounds, right? It can't be that, okay, I have found someone else who's giving me these products, he's giving me these products for no cost. And even though manufacturing by itself, the process is a lengthy process, and if you're going to a new manufacturer, it should take you around a month or so. But in your best case scenario, you get those products within a day or something of that sort. So that becomes unrealistic. So when we're talking about the best alternative or the worst alternative, we're not looking at unrealistic options of what is going to happen in the situation. Rather, we're looking at that if everything was to go in our favor, was to go against, what is it that could reasonably happen, and where would we find us? Now, that is the concept of your partner and partner. Why is it important for us as a party to understand what your partner is so that you know what are things at a mediation table that you can agree to or you can't agree to, right? So if you know that this is the worst case scenario, that even if I don't do anything and everything goes against me, and on a negotiation table you're getting an offer which is worse than that, you're not accepting that offer, because you know in comparison that even if everything goes wrong, I will still be at a better situation than whatever is being offered, right? Similarly, in terms of Batna, if you see that there's a different offer being made to you, again, your comparator will be with your partner. But also remember, partner is a case scenario that everything goes right. That means probably the offer in the table doesn't always have to be better than your partner, but your partner will be used as a comparator. That okay, if these are my interests, if partner means that everything that I have in my mind, I'm getting all of that. All of my interests are being served. So you see that okay, three interests are being solved. That is my partner. If on the table the conversation is going in a direction that two of your interests are being served, or even one of your interests is being served, and that is the key interest, and which can help you still move along the key in terms of ensuring that your other two interests can be served by some other means, that will still be an option that you would want to consider, right? Again, your strategy can be to hardball, your strategy can be to reject offers by giving certain reasoning, then to come back and help them understand why you're rejecting those offers. But also remember that it has to be rational, it has to be against that comparator of what is it that outside of this negotiation in the real world that I can get. Okay, so those are the uh, different parts of your negotiation plan. I'll also run you through a draft negotiation plan so that it helps you understand exactly what we're looking at, what we're talking about in terms of the final product. Okay, so this is a mediation plan between two parties called Shakespeare and Ellis. So as we go through it, you'll also understand what the underlying dispute is. So as we said, the first part of your plan is about the mediation strategy. It says, firstly, begin the mediation by explaining the essence of mediation, its key elements consisting of principles such as consent, confidentiality, impartiality, non-prejudice, and establishing the ground rules of the mediation process. Again, even though all of this might sound very process-oriented, it is not just purely procedural. The idea is that if the parties have come in with the framework of litigation, with the framework of that I want to win, by explaining these essential features of mediation, what you're telling them is you're reminding them that there's complete confidentiality. So be open, help me understand what is it that I can do, what is it that is truly your underlying interest, right? Help them understand that nothing that we decide will be decided unless all of us have agreed to it, right? Any decision that's made will be completely consensual between the two parties. If we have a mediator on the table, the idea is to have a completely impartial party who helps us understand. It's not a judge sitting there to decide who has the better side. It is an impartial individual sitting there to help you reach that goal that you're reaching to, that you're aiming to, right? Okay, next. It is imperative to include the negotiators in the establishment of ground rules to set a conducive environment in which the discussion starts. So this is from the mediator's perspective. The idea is that you want to ensure that you're not just putting it out there as the mediator that all of these are the things that you're supposed to do. But you're also ensuring the parties understand what that means when you're telling them that okay, these are the ground rules that you have to follow. You have to be respectful to the other party. You don't speak over each other. You always listen to the other party and understand what is it that they're trying to say. Secondly, assist in setting the agenda for the mediation process, which is an important part of the mediator's role, is helping the parties sort through that what is the structure that they're going to follow in terms of their conversation. Because without a structure, the conversation can go a million ways and the parties tend to get lost. If they're not reaching solutions, if they're unable to see eye to eye on matters, and you don't have an agenda, you don't have anything to go back and refer to that, okay, we were on point one, what has been decided on point one, right? Or there are two other things that we have to discuss. If it's a free flowing conversation without setting out those very important agenda points, it's very easy for parties to be having a lot of conversations overlapping with each other, but yet not making any progress. Setting the agenda helps the mediator have that structure in place to ensure that the parties know what are the important conversations that they want to have. Thirdly, assist in accelerating fact finding by providing a caucus session when necessary. When negotiators resort to displaying hostility or at any sign of confusion. This is the key role of a mediator in terms of ensuring that you know exactly when to have the conversation with both parties on the table and when you need to pull out one party and say, okay, I see either you're being heard or not being heard, or if you're being hostile or you're not giving the other party a chance to speak. What can we do about it? Let me understand what are your issues one on one, and then we'll go back to the main session and discuss this between both the parties and see what can be done. The next is, if ever the mediation has come to an agreement, mediators will write up the solution as a formal written agreement using neutral and understandable language. Idea is that by the end of it, as a mediator, you also have to give something binding to the parties so that beyond the conversation, they also know exactly what they've agreed to and what they're going to follow through. The goal of the mediation from the mediator's perspective is to address the underlying concerns and or interests of the parties that they may or may not have been able to express before. Once the issues have been addressed efficiently, the mediation process can focus on healing the relationship among the parties eventually and finding solutions to settle their dispute. Idea is that in a mediation, even always remember it's the process that matters a lot, right? Even if you thought that, okay, these are the 3 points that I want to discuss, and I want, say, on one, I want the payment to be made, on second, I want the goods to be delivered, on third, I want that we also enter, excuse me, enter into a long-term contract. It's not as simple as that. Even if the conversation has not been able to get you the exact goal or the solution that you're looking for, if at the very minimum as a mediator, you're able to get more clarity to the other parties, right? When they come to a dispute, there's a lot of confusion as to why are these things happening to me? Why is the other party not helping me achieve what I want to, even though we've already agreed that this is how it's supposed to be? Why is it not happening my way, right? If as a mediator, that's the only sort of contribution that you're able to make is get more clarity of just helping parties understand, okay, why is it that they're faced with such a situation? What is it that they want? Even that is a good mediation outcome, right? It doesn't have to be that bam, bam, you get into a conversation, you flesh out the 3 things that you want, and that's the end of it. Till the time parties are getting more clarity of what is going on under the table, it helps them move along with the process. It's okay if one session is not enough to get the exact solution you're looking for, but if it brings the parties closer, it helps them trust each other more. If it gets them answers to their questions, it is already making them feel better. It is already taking them away from litigation, ensuring that conversation between the parties keeps going on, and they're looking and doing things together. Right? Now, C is alternative means to achieve the goal. During the mediation, the mediator can approach the mediation process by being an active mediator and guiding the parties by providing guiding questions and reality checking the party solutions. Idea is that the mediator is a neutral third party. By the same time, as a mediator, you're listening to what is going on. From your experience, you understand that, okay, this is what the party is saying, but is there an underlying meaning to it? Is there some clarity that I can bring to the other party? Because sometimes you will see that both parties are looking at the same tree but are not seeing the tree. One might be looking at the bark, the other would be looking at the leaves, and the mediator sees the whole picture, but the parties just can't. So that sort of clarity, if the mediator can bring, if they can guide the parties towards seeing the bigger picture, seeing what is it that seems to be important to both the parties, they're doing a good job at what they're doing. Next is the needs and interests of the requesting party. So this is again from the GI perspective that Elvis would like to continue the 5-year lease of the apartment and live in his apartment peacefully without harassment from other tenants and continue using his apartment for practice when needed. So this is the mediator looking at that, okay, for both the parties, what are the needs and basic needs and interests that they have. For the responding party, it is that, say, Shakespeare, who's the landlord, would like Elvis to lower the noise volume, avoid working environment to continue his writing, and to continue the 5-year lease for his apartment. Now we come to the Bhartna and Vartna. Remember, this is again from the side of the mediator. So it's looking at the picture from both sides. So number one is Shakespeare can move to a different apartment with a more peaceful environment to continue his work. Elvis can search for and move to a different apartment where he can play music. Notice this fact that this isn't helping them continue being in the situation they are, it's helping them resolve the underlying interest. That is, Shakespeare wanted a more peaceful environment to continue his work, and Elvis wanted an environment where they can continue making more music, and even though they're being loud about it, but it involves more effort. They'll have to look for places, they'll have to shift into apartment, more money, energy, and resources going into that. But those are best alternatives that are happening to you without the other party doing anything in your favor, or things that are not in your control, they're working in your favor. The worst alternative in this case is Shakespeare can pursue litigation for Elvis's noise nuisance, while Elvis can pursue litigation for Shakespeare's harassment. As a result of litigation, parties may receive compensation. Depending on who's the losing party, that will end up becoming their worst alternative. Okay, so this is the mediation plan from a mediator's perspective. Now we're just quickly going to go through a negotiation plan from one party's perspective, which will help you get an idea of what we do as parties as preparation for a particular negotiation or mediation. So the negotiating strategy for Shakespeare here being the landlord. Firstly, we'll begin with asking Elvis about his music career and sharing about Shakespeare's own writing career. Now you understand that as a person in a dispute, your first case would be, okay, why is it that you can't, why is it that you can't play music at a lower volume? Why is it that you have to disturb everyone else, right? Because you're coming from a perspective that your interests have been hurt and you want that to be resolved. But if you see the negotiating strategy that's been undertaken in this plan, is that you begin by the personal note. You understand that music is important to Elvis. You ask him about his music. How's it going? What is your music career like? What is it that you do when you're making this music? What is the process, right? You're engaging with what is important to the other party. Similarly, you're also giving them context on your writing career, right? Because at the end, if you are not able to get that peaceful environment to sit and write it, you have to help the other party understand how exactly is it that it's impacting you, right? Because how you're feeling or how it's impacting you, that is something that no one can question you about, right? If you're feeling sad about something, I can't come and say, oh no, you're not feeling sad, because it is the impact on you. You get to make that decision, right? And the other party needs to listen and understand that, okay, this is how my actions are impacting the other party. And this is what is it that I can do to ensure that they don't feel this, right? So through this, the parties may find a common ground since the careers relate closely to art. This will allow us to establish a friendly environment and encourage the parties to be open, right? So instead of going in with attacking questions, what you've done is create a mutual environment where you're talking about things which are mutual to both of you, which you can agree to. You can always talk about the beauty that lies in art in terms of writing, in terms of making music, and use that in terms of building that relationship and then coming to a dispute. Because when you do that, you're already softening down the tone of that conversation that will happen. So now it's more likely not going to be an argument, but more a persuasive conversation of why is it important for me to be playing songs at a particular decibel if I'm making music? Why is it important for me to have a completely silent environment when I'm writing, right? Secondly, we will conduct information gathering by asking about Elvis's practice regime and what changes have been made following Shakespeare's request. The second part that has happened is, first, you set the right mind space, you set the right tone to the conversation. Second, what you've done is, instead of again going with, okay, what can you do, what can I do, think, okay, let me understand more in terms of what has happened. Help me, you're asking the other party, help me stand in your shoes and see things from your perspective. I have told you how I have been impacted, but help me understand how have you been impacted, or since I brought this to your notice, what changes have you made, right? We'll also be open to answering questions from Elvis about Shakespeare's response to the issue. A thorough understanding of the situation will substantially aid the parties in generating solutions to the issue. Because now you're not looking at that tree from a one side, that the bark is important for you, so you're only looking at the bark, but you're also looking at, okay, why are the leaves important to the other person, right? Thirdly, we will generate solutions to resolve the noise issue. That is, now that you've set the right tone, you've got the context on both sides. Now you can pick on the dispute head on. Say, okay, all things being said, this is the issue at hand. How do we resolve this? We will need to be accommodating at this stage, which can be done by suggesting low-cost solutions to reduce the noise. Additionally, the parties can have a discussion on the expectations and terms between them, such as quiet hours. Setting clear expectations will help ensure that similar issues do not reoccur between the parties in the future. If you also see how this has been framed, it's not what I can do or the other party can do, but it's what are the parties both agreeing to mutually do for each other to resolve this issue. Lastly, once all issues have been resolved, we will begin discussing the future relationship between the parties. This may include future collaborations and promotions between Elvis and Shakespeare. Again, this is a particular creative solution that has been given. And remember, future relationship is important But sometimes it might also be more important to ensure that there's a future relationship, because when parties see that, okay, there is a future in terms of accommodating with each other, right? They are more likely to continue collaborating with each other, because they see that it's not just benefits that I'm getting in the short term, but I will continue to reap these benefits in the long term. That is why it's always important that both the parties also have their eyes set to the future, that what is this relationship going to look like going into the future. Okay. Now, division of roles and responsibilities between client and counsel. It's very straightforward. I'm always asked this question that, okay, when does a counsel decide when to step in, or if they're being overbearing as a counsel? I think my theory in terms of a counsel is, if you are saying things, if you're stepping in whenever you think that my client's interests are not being handled well, or I need to push for certain things, it is always a good intervention by the counsel. It doesn't have to be a 40-60 split, 20-80 split, nothing of that sort in terms of speaking time. All that matters is, even if the counsel speaks for a limited time, but every time that they feel their client's interests are not being met and they interject, first interject in a way that they're also accommodating to the other person, not just being very one side of the conversation. It is a good role being played by the counsel, right? And client, of course, whenever there's this discussion about how this impacted the client, what is it that they can do personally, what is the sort of solution they can come up with, all these are conversations that clients can have, because it is a situation that they are faced. Now, coming to the third part, that's underlying needs and interests of the competing party. This is from Shakespeare perspective. Shakespeare would like to maintain the 5-year lease and not lose his apartment. Additionally, Shakespeare would like to be able to live in his apartment peacefully, maintain good neighborly relationships with other tenants, and continue using his home office to write production. Again, all of these are things that you are introspecting about, what is it that I want my future to look like. And from the other side, you also look at what are their probable underlying needs and interests of the other party, as we discussed, to understand that if this comes up, what is the conversation that I should be having. That Elvis would like to maintain the 5-year lease at his apartment. Furthermore, he would like to be able to live in his apartment without harassment from other tenants and continue using his apartment for practice when needed. Now, if you see that both their needs and interests sound very collaborative to each other, wherein it's talking about that A will be able to do this and B will be able to do this. Idea is that these are things that will very obviously come to you when you're reading a problem, but also look for other underlying needs and interests, even if it's a very wild assumption. Make that assumption, because what if that is the case and that is what the other party brings up on the table? You need to be prepared that if that is a need or interest that you couldn't have imagined, what is it that you can do going forward, right? You need to be prepared to have that conversation. Now, when you're making those wild decisions of what could this probable need and interest be, it's okay. That might be very far from what the actual need and interest of the party is. But the whole habit of doing that, of going through the process of seeing that if this very ostentatious need of the other party is there, and how do I tackle with it, it will help you really think on your feet when you're faced with a situation where a party is telling you interest that you couldn't have foreseen. How do you in that moment deal with it? How do you respond to what is the right way of action? That is how it helps. That's why you do this in your preparation. Then next we have identifying obstacles and means to overcome the obstacles. That is that in this conversation, what are the tough points that I see? Where can a deadlock be? What can I do? So Elvis will focus on Shakespeare's constant harassment. To overcome this obstacle, Shakespeare's counsel will reason with Elvis that Shakespeare has made numerous requests that have gone unaddressed. Second, Elvis will be reluctant to agree with the solutions presented. To overcome this obstacle, Shakespeare can offer to provide financial or material support to realize the solution without burdening himself. Always remember, just because a party is saying no to something, you don't have to take that answer. Ask them why. Why can't we agree to this? How is it? I heard you say earlier that this is your interest, and I see that in this particular way it might serve your interest. Then what else is there that I can help you with, which will help you agree to a particular solution, which will help us move forward from this, right? Move beyond this particular obstacle. Next, we have the partner for the party. Pursuant to great views agreement, both parties will have to move out of their respective units. Therefore, Shakespeare will have to find another apartment building. The worst alternative is that Shakespeare will pursue litigation to receive compensation due to the noise nuisance in comparison to the partner. Not only will he lose his apartment, litigation also requires substantial funds and time from the partner. So if you see in terms of what is potentially something that can happen in a negotiation, it can be better than your partner. Reason being that you're looking at what are those creative out of the box ways that both the parties can help each other, and that will always help you grow the pie and get more. Because when you're not talking about the strengths, you're not talking about how you can help the other party. You're not looking at all the different possibilities you can do by not incurring a lot of cost for yourselves, but increasing a lot of value for the other party, right? And that only happens to that conversation. So in the negotiation plan where we had talked about the strategy, that there will be information gathering, that is where your information gathering helps you. It helps you see the bigger picture. It helps you see what else can I do, how else can I help the other. So that is that in terms of your mediation plan and negotiation plan. If you have any questions, we can take that up at this point.
If you have any questions, you can use the chat box or you can raise your hand. Okay, I'll unmute you.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Actually, I just had a question that as a mediator, how can the person know what is the best for both the parties, considering they do not really have all the information with them, the CI and the situation that the parties are currently in? Because all what is mentioned in the proposition is not entirely the situation at hand. So, what is the best way to approach the same?
Right. So just one clarification, Arushi, when you say that it's not the, how do you understand what's the best situation? Are you referring to the BATNA, or are you generally referring to analyzing the whole situation for each party?
All right. So, not just the Batna and Vatna, but also the approach as to what the mediator should follow.
Okay. So I think as the mediator, the most important thing is know your basic facts. You, of course, don't know the confidential information, but that is what the whole mediation process is about. But the idea is that if I'm getting a mediator on the table, I want them to be clear with what the basic facts are. In terms of preparation, you think about what are the potential needs and interests from both sides, right? So it's a bigger task for the mediator, but also remember it's generally an easier task for the mediator because you're not having the hard conversations. The most important skill you bring to the table as a mediator is your listening skill, right? Because trust me, most times parties are not listening to each other when they're speaking. They're speaking to just convey what they want and not necessarily listening to understand how can they help the other party. With the mediator, go in with that perspective that I want to understand. And I think in your question, you had exactly that perspective that I know the general information. I don't know what are the particular interests for each side, right? And that's exactly the perspective with which you go into a mediation as a mediator. That, okay, what are the underlying interests for each of these? Listen to that, catch on to those things, ask follow-up questions. Remember, as a mediator, you're also as actively involved in the process. And one very common thing that happens is mediators are sometimes not sure of whether I should put forward a question, or the parties seem to be clear on something, but I don't have clarity. Remember, as a mediator, very important for you to have clarity, because and chances are very high that if a mediator is confused about something, probably the parties are too. It's just that they haven't recognized the fact that both of them have a separate understanding. And if the parties are clear, that is completely fine. You can still go ahead and ask that question, because it shouldn't happen that 5 minutes into the conversation, the party asks you, "Oh, but what did the other party mean by that?" And you come up with the, "Oh, I don't know. There's a conversation between two of you, right?" It wasn't. Mediators also equally a part of that conversation. So always have that clarity as a mediator. Ask those questions wherever required and listen to the parties. In terms of your preparation, you just need to figure out what are the broader things. How is it that I can bring the parties to be more collaborative? If one party is being harsh to the other one, what are the right things to say, right? Your words, how to prepare those, that is what you do as part of your preparation. In terms of the specific interest, that will come out throughout the whole process of the mediation. Okay, I think there was another question in the chat. As a mediator, can we add humor? Always. And that's also as a negotiator. Of course, there's always limits to it. It's not a humorous process. It might be a serious process, and depending on the fact scenario. But a little bit of humor never hurts someone, because as we were also speaking earlier of setting the right tone, it is always good to get a smile out to the other party, right? Because once you see in terms of the psychological text that and the body language that's being displayed on this on the table, you will see if one party is being nice to the other party, it is very hard for the other party to be harsh and say no to things or say, oh no, I don't agree with this. What are you saying? All of this doesn't make sense, right? A simple smile can just help lighten the mood. Sometimes, as a mediator, you can always use a little bit of humor, of course, not going overboard. That I think is also a very personal choice of where you find your humor. But it's never a bad thing to use humor, but just use it right, use it in the right context. And till the time you have your basic principles of what a mediator should be doing, if that's fine, you will be good. The reason I'm pointing that out is because it's important that the mediator does not look impartial. So your humor should not sound like you're favoring one party's perspective or the other party. Or one party feels like, oh, I have not been heard because this seems like the mediator is looking eye to eye with a particular party, right? That's the only limit to that. But otherwise, humor is always a good tool in terms of ensuring that the right tone is set on the table.
Just a follow-up question from my end, if I may.
Please go ahead.
All right. So, as you mentioned, what a mediator has to do, but I just couldn't get for the mediation strategy or the plan that we are supposed to submit. Does it have to be generic or specific in the terms that, for example, in the Batna or Vatna, some particular thing has been mentioned in the proposition that yes, the compensation demanded is, for example, say 3 crores. So, as a mediator, how can we put forward that what is the least amount that one of the parties can actually claim, or maybe the other party can pay? So, what is the position that they're in? So, do we not make it quite specific in terms of the compensation amount or the solutions that we provide from our end? Although it is just an advisory capacity, in the sense that we can just generate options for them, but then again, it is up to them as to what they choose. So, how exactly do we go about it?
So the limitation to that is that as a mediator, your preparation will always start generic, but you also have the context, right? And that is where your skills as a mediator come in. That what are the specific things that I can foresee will happen? That is the details that you'll put into your process, right? That this is a possible dispute area that this is potentially an area where parties might not see eye to eye. What is the kind of language that I can use? What is the thing that I can make them focus on, right? So now that we also have mediators here and we went to the negotiation plan, you would have recognized that the negotiation strategy said that there's this commonality of art between the two parties, right? Those are things the mediators can always pick up on, right? Those are extra things that you can pick up on in your mediation or in your preparation. That as a mediator, what are the common things that I can bring out for the parties, so that if they're not looking eye to eye, or if they're looking at each other as rivals, what is that meeting point that I can remind them of? Or you can always remind them of the past. The good old days, that always works, because it really shakes the parties and makes them see, okay, there was a reason why we came together, right? And why is that reason not there?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, please.
A very good afternoon, ma'am. First of all, thank you for such a wonderful session. I have a very specific question with respect to caucus. So, a lot of times, what happens is that we, as mediators, when we ask the parties for a caucus, one party disagrees while the other party might be willing to have a caucus. Now, what should we do as mediators? The party which is disagreeing, should we call that party in caucus as well, or should we do caucus with just one party which is in agreement of having it?
Understood. So in a caucus, it's always the mediator's call of when to have it. So if the party asks you for a caucus, and as a mediator, you feel that right now is not the time, you can always tell them that, okay, let's get back to this. I feel that it's an important conversation we're in between. So it's helpful to finish that and then we can get back to it. In terms of the parties wanting not wanting a caucus, that is fine. Your job as a mediator is to ensure that both parties have that opportunity, right? If they've said no, ask them, is it that you want it at a different time? If they still don't want it, that is completely fine. That's the party's choice. That is the autonomy that they have over the process. But as the mediator, it is your responsibility to look at both parties equally and say, okay, I have given that choice to one. I will also extend the same choice to you. Right? And this is how I see this to them.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
All right. If there's no
Okay, ma'am.
thank
Yeah.
you. It was
Thank you,
wonderful
ma'am,
conversation.
for your kind and valuable words, which definitely provided us with great insights on information that we will definitely benefit from. And yeah, ma'am, that would be it for your session.
Thank
With
you.
this, I would also like to tell everyone that finally the most awaited session is also going to happen now. We will be moving to the mock mediation that will be conducted by my fellow Lima team members. And the mediation aims to provide you all with the basic understandings of how the competition will work. Before going over and inviting them to perform the mock mediation, I would also like to inform all of you that after the mock mediation, we will be having the vote of thanks, where a bit of section is reserved for a Q&A session. In that Q&A session, if you have any questions or queries regarding the competition, you can ask us. So with this, now I would request to invite the members of my Lima team, if ma'am is willing to let them take over the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I'll be taking all of the leads. All the best to the teams and make use of the mock mediation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to this mediation session. I am Anisha Sharma, and I will be your mediator for today's session. Please feel free to address me by my first name. My name is Komal Rawat, and I will be a co-mediator for today's session, and you can address me by my first name. Firstly, I would like to appreciate everyone for choosing mediation as a process to resolve your dispute, considering there are many other methods like arbitration and trial. I would also want to bring this to your notice that we are certified mediators practicing mediation from the last 15 years. Now, with the prior permission from the responding party, I would like to request the members of requesting party to come up with their introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Miss Hermione, representing Ministry of External Affairs of Hogwarts. You can call me by my first name.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mr. Harry, and I will be representing Miss Hermione, the Minister of External Affairs of Hogwarts, as their counsel. You may address me by my first name.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John, and I'm from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, representing the government of Winterfell. Please be free to call me by my first name.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mr. Tyrion. I am the counsel for Mr. John, representing the government of Winterfell. You all can call me by my first name.
That's fantastic. Now that both parties are familiar with each other, we can move forward. I hope that both the clients have the complete authority to negotiate any settlements or deals that we have during the session.
Yes.
Yes.
The purpose of our meeting is to help the parties to work out an understanding acceptable to resolve the situation which has been arising here. The process of mediation mainly rests on three pillars. First being, it is a voluntary procedure. None of you will be forced to come to any agreement that you're not comfortable with. You have chosen to come here, and you can choose to leave wherever you feel the need to. Secondly, mediation is a confidential process. Anything and everything said on this table would not be disclosed to the outside world. Third point being neutrality. Me and my co-mediator are completely neutral parties. We do not have any preconceived bias against any of the parties. So, do any of us has any doubts till now?
No, ma'am.
No.
No.
All right, we need to understand that we are here to stay back Instead, we are here to discuss your problem and move forward in a united manner and reach a solution which is efficient and agreeable to both of you. This is a problem-solving instrument. We will ensure that both of you leave the table happy. This is not a legal process, rather an informal process to resolve the dispute. I would also like to remind everyone that we are here to create a we. So let us not be stuck at a me and a you, and let's leave our personal issues behind and move towards forging a path for everyone to work together. As many of you might be new to a mediation session, firstly, we'll go through the stages of mediation. We will start off with the opening speeches from both the parties, where we shall discuss the main issues of the matter. After the opening speeches, we will set the agendas of the discussion. An agenda is nothing but the flow of discussion, that what all things are we going to discuss in the joint session. If any of you comes to a deadlock, then we shall have a private caucus, that is an individual session with both the parties. Whatever will be discussed in the private caucus shall not be disclosed to the other party unless the party deliberately asks us to. Despite being an informal process, but we found useful to follow certain set of rules in order to ensure a successful mediation session. Are the parties clear? Yes.
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 Coming to the ground rules of this session, I would just like to say that we have been allocated 1 hour for this mediation session. I could request and ask both the parties to make the most out of these 1 hour. And another thing which is to be kept in mind is that the parties are requested to maintain the decorum of the session and avoid use of any sort of disrespectful language. Both of you shall be humble to each other and give equal opportunity to both of you. Further, I would like to request both of you to mute yourself to ensure minimum disturbance. So, are the parties clear with the ground rules? Yes.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
So, as it is customary that the requesting party starts with the opening statements, but I would like to take the permission from Winterfell and request the Hogwarts to come up with the opening statements.
Sure.
Sure.
I would like to thank Anisha and Komal for clarifying the process so wonderfully. Firstly, I would like to bring into the consideration that as easy as it might look from outside, it is not. I, Hermione, as the Minister of External Affairs. Hogwarts is a small country with a population of about 20 million. We invited Winterfell for a mediation to resolve the situation. So, what was it? Let me tell you that as a nation, the Hogwarts are very well equipped with military and defense sector and has built a repo in the world. We came into a treaty in 2020 with our neighbors Winterfell to help us and curb the emergency situation of horrid 19 by signing an agreement with us. It was a mutual assistance deal. Let me know you once again that it was a mutual assistance deal, which means that we both mutually agreed on this certain reasons. And it was to set up a tone of togetherness in front of the whole world. But Winterfell, not as an individual, as a nation, failed to help their neighbors with true signs of negligence and arrogant behavior. You know, Winterfell withdrew their obligations from the agreement, leaving Hogwarts stranded to deal with the disaster of Horrid 19. Now, I would request my counsel to further explain it.
Thank you, Ms. Hermione. First, I would like to thank the mediators, Ms. Anisha and Ms. Komal, for explaining the process so well to us. And I'm grateful for the presence of Mr. John and Mr. Tyrion and showing willingness to resolve this situation of ours. I will be assisting Ms. Hermione here today, and I'm looking forward to reaching an amicable resolution and resolving this situation. Now, to reiterate the particulars of the agreement entered into by both these esteemed countries, First, Hogwarts agreed to supply a 20% subsidized military to the country of Winterfell in order to help them combat their territorial dispute with the country of Narnia, in exchange of 7 million doses of the vaccine Wildfire to be supplied to Hogwarts over the course of 6 months. However, after the resolution of Winterfell's dispute with Narnia, Winterfell withdrew their obligations from the agreement and left Hogwarts stranded to deal with their horrendous situation of Horrid 19. While Miss Hermione understands the nature of situations that have changed on Winterfell's side, we expect the continuation of the agreement, and she's also willing to make a few adjustments in it in order to do so. Further, we would like to discuss the negative remarks made by the cabinet minister of Winterfell and the effects that it has caused to our country. So, to summarize, the main interests that remain for discussion in this session will be, first, the supply of vaccines and therefore the continuation of the treaty formed between both the countries, and second, the implications of the negative remarks made by the cabinet minister of Winterfell. Thank you. So now I would like to request Mr. John and Mr. Tyree to start with their opening statements.
Thank you, Ms. Komal and Ms. Anisha, for explaining us the mediation process. And I would also like to thank Ms. Hermione and Mr. Harry for choosing mediation as an alternative for resolution. Let me brief you about the course of events that took place. With pride, I would like to tell you that Winterfell, is a neighboring country of Hogwarts, which is known for its massive and rich scientific resources. And with its best scientific resources, the Ministry of Health succeeded in making the vaccines of COVID 19 named Wildfire. But due to the uncertain experiences with with Narnia, which is also a neighboring country, we were in the requirement of military assistance and weaponry. This led us to sign a treaty with Hogwarts because Hogwarts were in the urgent need of vaccines and we were in the requirement of weaponry and military vehicles. But due to the unprecedented chaos created by the Horrid 19, we decided with Narnia to create a peace treaty with them. So, therefore, Winterfell wants to sign off the treaty because we do not think that there is any requirement of the military assistance, and we are not in the position to provide them with the vaccines. Now, I request my counsel to please put forward his points.
Thank you, Mr. John. I would also like to thank the representatives of Hogwarts, Ms. Hermione and Mr. Harry, for choosing mediation to resolve this dispute. As Mr. John has already stated the facts of the events, I would further not like to go into the details, but I would like to state one thing, that we all are here today to collaborate with each other. Thus, my client, Mr. John, proposes to set all the legal issues aside, and in the spirit of good faith and transparency, we request Hogwarts to recognize the relationship between the two esteemed countries, that is Winterfell and Hogwarts. The relationship between these two countries is promising and mutually beneficial for both the countries. It is in both a short and long-term interest to preserve this relationship. The Winterfell-Hogwarts Treaty was profitable for both the parties from the beginning, I suppose. The treaty had the provision to provide vaccines from the Winterfell in exchange of military vehicles from Hogwarts, both on subsidized rates. However, Mr. John understands that any agreement has to adapt with the changing situation. Mr. John, in these extraordinary times, believes to openly address these changes and make the necessary adjustments. To this end, Mr. John requests the other party, that is Hogwarts, to discontinue the treaty, that is Winterfell-Hogwarts Treaty, because as he already stated, we are in no need of military assistance from Hogwarts because of the peace treaty that we have signed with Narnia. Further, Mr. John's interests are, they would also want to hear the other party's views and how we can reach to an amicable solution, because preserving the relationship between both the countries is one of our primary interests. Thank you.
So what I gathered from the opening statements of Ms. Hermione and Mr. Harry is that the country Hogwarts' main interest lies within the vaccines, as the situation in their country deteriorated, and therefore they wish to continue this treaty that took place between the country of Winterfell and the country of Hogwarts. Further, they also want to discuss about the negative remarks made by the Minister of Winterfell as they damage the reputation of Hogwarts. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
Is there anything else you would like to say?
No.
All right. Moreover, as I gather from the opening statements of Mr. John and Mr. Tyree, is that the country Winfield is economic conditions is deteriorating. Therefore, they want a discontinuation of treaty between Winterfell and Hogwarts. Is that correct?
Yes, Ms. Komal.
Now that we have heard both parties' opening statements, let us go ahead and set the agendas.
Thank you, mediator Anisha. So, as far as the listening the opening statements of Winterfell, it was all about the agreement and the mutual and beneficial how we can be before the neighbors. So, I would like to suggest that the treaty we would like to talk on this table about treaty and the vaccines because it is our primary objective, it is our need. So, we will like to talk about the vaccines also.
Yes, Ms. Hermione. Even Winterfell would like to put forward a discussion on the topic of treaty, as we wish to discontinue the treaty. So, what I suggest is that we can, if you don't have any problem, we can discuss on the treaty.
Yes. I do not have any problem, but I would like to suggest one more thing that the remarks that was made by Mr. Baelish, we want to also to talk on this table about that also because it is really a debatable topic.
So, Miss Hermione, if you also agree with me, so what can we do is let's just discuss on the topic of treaty, and under this we can talk about vaccine as well as the remarks made by cabinet minister. And so we also want to maintain the future relations with you.
Yes, completely. The future relations between two countries will should be talked about it.
So, after listening from everyone, we have established the agendas for today's discussion. So, the first agenda of today's discussion will be on the treaty that was signed between Hogwarts and Winterfell. In this, further, as a sub agenda, we will discuss on the topic of the problem of vaccines. Moreover, we will also address the problem of negative remarks made by the Minister of Winterfell. As the second agenda of today's discussion, we will discuss about the future relation between Hogwarts and Winterfell. Do any of us have any doubts regarding the agendas?
No, Anisha.
No,
So, so now I would like to say the floor is open for everyone to have a discussion on the following agendas.
So once again, thank you, Anisha. So, Hermione, I would like to talk about the treaty, the agreement that was between Hogwarts and Winterfell in the year 2020. It was all about the getting the mutual assistance between both the neighboring nations. And in supply, we will also talk about the vaccines, the supply of vaccines, because you know the situation of horrid 19. It is really horrifying, and it is creating chaos in the society. And you know our people are dying on the streets, and we don't know how to eradicate these situation of horrid 19. And that is why we need your vaccines. Please help us, please, as a neighboring nation, please help us and supply the vaccines, because you know the cases are increasing day by day in our country.
To support Ms. Hermione's statement, according to a report of a research done in our country, there are a number of cases that have been increasing. Every day, there have been 846 fresh cases arising in our country, therefore further justifying our desperation for your vaccines.
Miss Hermione and Mr. Harry, I understand your plight, but you also need to understand our situation that we had already signed a peace treaty with Narnia, and therefore we do not need any military assistance at such a point of time. And you also know that if we'll continue the treaty, we have to also put the resources in the production of vaccines. We are not in the situation to put so much resources. So we cannot provide you with the vaccines and cannot continue the treatment.
Mr. John, we completely understand your approach towards your country, but just look at ourselves, because let's put aside all the distinction of your people and my people, and let's consider that the fact that the people are dying. So once again, I plead to you, it's a humble request, Mr. John, to please give us the vaccines, the wildfire, because to save our people, because of the situation that has been created today.
Miss Hermione, I deeply recognize your situation. But the thing is, even our economy is going to depression. We are not able to provide our people vaccinated first. And the vaccines have to be provided. It is our priority. As the representative of the Winterfell, it is our priority to give the vaccination to our people first. And we are not in the position to provide you with the vaccines.
To support Mr. John's statement, the cost of production that is required in producing one vaccine is huge. It is not easy to produce a vaccine. It is a tough job. The Ministry of Health in Winterfell is doing day and night to produce those vaccines. The cost of production required in one vaccine is not sufficing. The economic depression in Winterfell is also lowering down the economic monetary resources in our country. So I cannot understand how Ms. Hermione has already stated that people are dying. We expect you to understand that people in Winterfell are also dying. We cannot afford our people to let the people in Winterfell die and support your country and save the lives of your people. How I do not understand how you can assume that we can provide the vaccines to you, leaving our country behind. I would also like to ask that if you being in our place, you would do the same as your country to keep them as priority.
I completely understand your priorities, but I would also like to further ask that, what was the remark that was made by by your own minister, Mr. Baelish? Is this the remark saying other country as they are as an underdeveloped country, and it's a matter of shame to sign agreement with us? Is this behavior acceptable?
Miss Hermione, I acknowledge that your people's sentiments might got have hurt because of the remarks made by our cabinet minister. But I like to remind you that our honorable prime minister made it very clear that the remarks made by our cabinet minister were very casual and that too in an informal manner. So they were his personal views. He wants to representing the Winterfell. So you cannot say that we had gave any damages to your country.
Just now you said about that it was a personal remark. You know that as a minister, we are the representatives of a people. We are the voice of people, and we both the countries come from a democratic setup. So how can you say this? And this remark was made on a public forum, which means a total disregard to this situation that has been rising, and it resulted in various agreements with the other countries and the situation that has been rose.
To support what Miss Hermione just said, a country as big as yours will obviously have a lot of influence over the impression other countries have of us. So, as a direct result of the remarks made by your cabinet minister, 3 countries dropped out of economic deals with us, further deteriorating our economic situation while we're already on the verge of an economic depression. Therefore, I would request the country of Winterfell to find a way to compensate for these damages.
Miss Hermione and Mr. Harry, we understand your situation. That because of the remarks made by cabinet minister, your people's sentiments might got have hurt. Their feelings might got have hurt, and they would have suffered some pain. But what all Winterfell can afford is we can provide you a public apology with our cabinet minister himself on a world forum.
Mr. John, I understand. But considering the amount of damage caused to both our economy and our reputation, in our opinion, just the public opinion would not suffice. So, in addition to that, we request you to pay an amount of $150 million as a way to compensate for the damages caused by the remarks.
As my client, Mr. John, has been stating from the beginning of the session that the economic condition in Winterfell is not good. The horrid 19 cases have been increasing in our country also. The economic resources are going down in our country also. How can we provide a claim of $150 million for the defamatory remarks? We are not in a condition to provide the claim you are asking for.
I completely understand this situation. What what Mr. Harry just proposed about the claim of $150 million US dollars. I would like to know the reason behind this. Why you all are not accepting this? Because it is really devastating, and that what my Mr. Harry mentioned that three countries they just came out of the agreement with them. So I would like to know the reason behind this. Why you are not agreeing on this claim?
Miss Hermione, I'm very glad that you're trying to understand the reason behind it. But the reason is that we are not in the condition to provide you with the vaccines. And you are asking us for the defamation remarks made by the cabinet minister. But our economic condition is very bad. Like the situation right now, our economy is going through recession. The people are getting affected by COVID 19 so much. So we are not in the position to provide you such a big amount for the defamation.
So, Mr. John, I would like to ask that how much are you willing to pay?
So as Mr. John has stated that we are in no condition to provide such a huge amount for your claim. Based on earlier discussions with my client, Mr. John, we had decided from the side of Pintapil, understanding your situation and keeping a collaborative approach, we are ready to pay $70 million because we understand that your country has been affected. Three countries broke out of deal with your country because of our cabinet minister. We are ready to pay $70 million for the claim you are asking for.
Mr. Tarrant, thank you for proposing the $70 million proposal. But you know that it is very less. And you know the economic condition and the crisis in Hogwarts. So as far as looking the condition, $70 million is very less amount. So for this, I loved your mutual approach and collaborative because this will really help in our relations. So I would like to reduce my price, which was earlier proposed by Mr. Harry, to $85 million.
Miss Hermione, it is difficult for us, but considering that you have been our good neighbors and we had maintained past relations in a very good terms, we can agree for $85 million. Plus, we'll also provide you a public apology.
Thank you, Mr. John. Thank you. I'm very much glad. I'm very much happy. And I loved your collaborative approach and accepting the offer which was proposed by us. Thank you. Thank you.
So just to be sure that we heard you right, what Miss Hermione and Mr. Harry are saying is that their country, Hogwarts, is on the verge of economic depression as the cases of COVID-19 are increasing day by day. And as much as Winterfell is concerned with their situation, they are in no position to provide them with the vaccine as their country's situation is also worsening. Moreover, as they were discussing about the negative remarks made by the Minister of Winterfell, it caused a lot of harm to the reputation of Hogwarts, and due to which they broke out of deals with more than three countries, resulted in further economic deterioration. So, in order to repair those damages, earlier Hogwarts asked for $150 million as a compensation, but with a successful negotiation, both the countries came to an agreement that Winterfell will pay $85 million as a compensation along with a public apology. Is there anything else I'm missing out?
No, it's
No.
totally
Oh,
correct.
Anisha, thank you.
All right. So now I would like to request both of you to discuss further agendas.
So, Mr. John, you know that our primary concern is all about in the interest of saving our people, the life of our people, because this disastrous horrid 19 has created a chaos and the situation is not good, as you all know about it. So once again, I would ask for the supply of vaccines. It is a need. We are in a dire need of this, and we also understand your situation. But you know that wildfire has been made by your own scientific developers. So as a neighboring nation, please help us in this situation, and please help the Hogwarts.
Miss Hermione, what Winterfell is expecting is that you're just saying we understand your situation. We expect you to collaborate with us. Even our situation is worsening. We are not in the position to provide you with the vaccines. And even my family is affected by horrid 19. And it is our duty to provide vaccines to our people first. We are not in the position to provide you with the vaccines.
You know, it is extremely disheartening and unacceptable seeing that you are not you are unwilling to cooperate with us. You know our situation, but you are not cooperating with us and giving us the supply of vaccines. You are only seeing your interest. I am just looking and just expecting that to get the supply of vaccines, and you are showing dual interest. One side you are signing a treaty with Narnia for military for the peace treaty, and on the other side you are just denying from the agreement that you signed with us. This shows your dual interest.
Miss Hermione, I think you are being quite rude because uh, you're questioning our interest, that you're saying that we are being selfish. And also I think, Miss Hermione, you are only being repetitive. You are not able to find any path. Miss Anisha and Miss Komal, we request for a private session because we are unable to find any path right now.
Even we the Hogwarts also want a private session.
As Winterfell has initiated for private caucus followed by Hogwarts. So now I would like to request Hogwarts to move to waiting area and request the organizers to assist them to do so.
I request the requesting party to kindly join the room. Mediators, you can continue. They have joined the room.
So I would like to welcome the responding party to the private caucus. As you all know, the private caucus, whatever we will discuss in this session, shall not be disclosed to the outside party. Now you can, the floor is open for you to discuss whatever you feel that need to be discussed.
Thank you, Miss Anisha. Miss Anisha and Miss Komal, what I like to say is that Hogwarts is giving us a burden that we are not providing them vaccines, but they are not showing any collaborative sign because they are our neighbors. We accept them to collaborate with us. They are not understanding our situation. There is a recession going on in our country. We are not able to provide them with the vaccines. We are a country with not a small population, and even my family is being affected by horrid 19. Our people are dying on the roads. The cases are increasing day by day. The situation is so worse that we have to afford the vaccine to our people, and they are not trying to understand that. I like my counsel to add few points.
As Mr. John, my client, has stated that it is not easy to produce vaccines and provide to the other country also and fulfill the needs of our country at the same time. So I think that Hogwarts should put a collaborative approach and agree on our terms also so that we can establish a future relationship also.
Miss Anisha, it's not that we do not, and Miss Komal, it's not that we do not want to collaborate with them. We had a suspicion that Narnia can attack us in the upcoming future. Because in the previous years also we had signed a peace treaty with them, but they had attacked our country previously also. So it's not that we do not need military assistance, but we want a collaborative approach from Hogwarts side also.
As Mr. John has stated that we would love to have a collaborative approach from Hogwarts. And we have a suspicion that Narnia can breach the treaty that has been signed between Winterfell and Narnia, because it has done 2 times also previously. The peace treaty between Narnia can be broken anytime. We can have clashes with Narnia again. So we will need military assistance from the side of Hogwarts. We want to show a collaborative approach, and we expect the same from the side of Hogwarts. So based on earlier discussions with my client, we would like to propose an offer to Hogwarts that we can sell them vaccine at $70 per dose in return of military assistance at any given time in future if we may have clashes with Narnia again. I would expect Hogwarts to understand our approach, and I would also like them to collaborate with us and establish a future relationship between two countries as we did earlier in the past.
To sum up, with the statements of Winterfell, I would like to gather that economic condition of your country is deteriorating, and also you have a future suspicion of clashes with Narnia. Therefore, you are ready to provide vaccine at the rate of $70 per dose, but in return of that you want military assistance in future. Is that correct?
Yes, Miss Anisha.
Yes, Ms. Komal.
Thank you for trusting us and disclosing this information. Now, would you like us to tell this to Miss Hermione and Mr. Harry?
If my client allows, yes.
Yeah, sure. If they are ready to collaborate with us.
All right. Now, I request you to kindly wait in the waiting area, and I would like request the organizers to kindly coordinate with them. I would request or the organizers to coordinate with the responding party Winterfell and allow them to wait in the waiting rooms. I would like to welcome Hogwarts to this private caucus. I would again state that whatever you will be disclosing to here will not be disclosed to the country of Winterfell unless you allow us to. Now you can put forward your opinions.
Thank you, Anisha. You know that Mr. John told me that you are being too repetitive. You know our situation that has been risen today. Looking at the present scenario, uh, the the conditions is worsening day by day. And what earlier mentioned by my Mr. Harry, my counsel, he told about the increase in the number of cases. You know, the increase in the number of cases as per the international reports also suggest that in next 6 months the condition would not be very good. So this situation is not good for us, and that is why we want vaccines. That is why I am being repetitive of getting vaccines, because it is really helpful and a necessity for us. The past 3 decades we have been helping them for in military assistance, so as a return we want it.
In addition to that, I would like to point out that despite the economic condition, the dire economic condition of our country, we have successfully been able to provide Winterfell with military assistance, and that too at subsidized rates. So naturally, we're expecting a return in the favor.
And you know that what Mr. Harris said, that for the past 3 decades we have been helping them. So it will be a good and a collaborative approach from their side that to help their neighbors, their own neighbors, in this situation, because maybe in future they need us as of if Narnia breaks the treaty once again, and it will be not the correct situation of telling that thing, but today we need the vaccines and they need our military assistance.
As is evident, we are very eager to continue this agreement. But because of our economic situation, we are unable to afford buying the vaccines at the cost of $50 per dose. So if Winterfell could consider the possibility of changing the terms of the agreement, we are willing to buy the vaccines at the rate of $40 per dose in exchange of military assistance provided to them at any given time.
If I received your words correctly, as you said that you are in the dire need of vaccination in your country due to the horrid 19 situation, therefore you wish to continue this treaty. And as you very well stated, the fact that you have helped Winterfell at the time of need, and you are willing to do so in the future as well by providing them military assistance. So you want the vaccines at the rate of $40 per dosage in exchange of military assistance at any given point of time. Is this the correct summary of the caucus?
Yes, yes,
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for trusting us and disclosing this information. Now, would you like us to tell this to Mr. John and Mr. Tryon?
yes, of course.
All right. Now, I would like to request the organizers to invite the Winterfell to the conference. Thank you for waiting patiently. Now, I would like to disclose the private information of Winterfell as they had allowed us to disclose it, as their economic conditions are deteriorating and also they have a future suspicion of clashes with Narnia. Further, they are ready to provide vaccines at the rate of $70 per dose, but in return they want a military assistant in future. Would you like to add further?
No, Miss Komal.
Okay. Likewise, Hogwarts has also allowed us to disclose the discussion. So, what we discussed about is how they have helped you in the past and they want to maintain the better relation in the future. So, they are fully ready to assist you in the time of the need. They just want your help eagerly this time as they are in the dire need of vaccination due to the worsening condition of horrid 19. So, they are willing to buy vaccines at the rate of $40 per dosage in the exchange of military assistance at any time you need. Is that right? Is there anything
Yes.
else you would like to convey to Mr. John and Mr. Tryon?
No, no, that's completely correct.
All right. So now we have a ray of hope to move forward in a collaborative way between Winterfell and Hogwarts. Therefore, I would like to request both of you to discuss your second agenda on future relations.
So far as the discussions being discussed on the global humiliation and everything, it was so positive and collaborative approach from Winterfell's side. And for the last, I would like to say that we need, you know that we need vaccines. So we want your cooperative approach, and it will be mutually beneficial for both of us. So as far as you demanded $70, so I would like to say that can you reduce the demand and to $45 per doses?
Very happy to see your collaborative side, and we share the same spirit. But you also know our situation, and uh, you requested us for $45 per dose, but which is too less because you know the economic condition our country is going through.
Our economy would require resources to produce vaccines. So my client would like to propose $55, understanding your situation also. If you agreed on $55 per dose, along with military assistance at any given time in future, we can establish a further relationship.
So thank you for listening to us and this situation that I guess we are agreed on this, the $55, because there are the things that we need to maintain a collaborative approach, and we have a great future ahead. So defining this future relations, I am agreed on this, and this will be really helpful for both of the countries and establishing a new relation. And in future, if you require our military assistance at any point of time, we are there for the help of you, because a friend in need is a friend indeed.
As a result of this session, we are glad that Winterfell has agreed to reduce the price of vaccinations because they are aware of the situation at Hogwarts and are very concerned. As a result, Winterfell is now prepared to provide the vaccine at a rate of $55 per dosage. Moreover, as a result of their cooperative approach, they were able to reach an agreement for the defamation case lodged against Winterfell. Winterfell is prepared for the public apology and will also pay $85 million as a compensation. I hope you enjoyed this mediation session. Also, I would like to congratulate both of the countries, Winterfell and Hogwarts, for successfully resolving their dispute through this mediation session.
I would also like to thank all of you for collaborating with us, Winterfell as a country. I would also like to discuss the further discussions on the deals made by us right now in this joint session with the Council of Hogwarts. So can we have one more session in future to discuss the details that we have decided right now?
Yes, of course, Mr. Tyron. We're looking forward to further discussing this.
Thank you everyone for showing a collaborative approach from the side of Winterfell.
And also, I like to thank Ms. Hermione that we reach an amicable solution, and I hope we can maintain our future relations as a good neighbor.
I would. It's been a fruitful session because first of all, I would like to thank the mediators Anisha and Komal for clarifying all the processes and running this smoothly, and because this helped us to establish a new relation of togetherness between the two nations, and it was really a fruitful session with all the disputes raised, and especially thank to the mediators once again for guiding us and listening carefully to resolving our disputes. And the Winterfell, we will be surely helping you, and it's a good sign of togetherness and collective approach. Thank you.
Only mediation can determine how to work through your differences and reach to an amicable solution. I would like to thank everyone, Ms. Hermione, Mr. Harry, Mr. John, and Mr. Tryon for cooperating with us. It has been a positive and a successful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Anisha.
A wonderful mock mediation performed by my fellow Lima members, which definitely provided us with the insight of how we can expect this competition to go. Coming to the end of this session, now I would like to request the organizing committee to deliver the Q&A session where all your queries and questions regarding the competition will be answered.
A very good evening to everyone present over here. I hope you had a great session today, and I feel the workshop which we have conducted for you all would be a beneficial thing for this competition. We are here with a brief introduction about the competition, which mentions about the flow of the event itinerary, and all the question and answer will be provided today to you. We are very happy that we have received so many registrations today. We have crossed around 450 plus registration in this competition in 4th edition. And we have proudly selected 100 top 100 teams, which has been divided into Group A and Group B. Group A would have 50 teams and Group B would have 50 teams. I hope the PowerPoint presentation is visible to you all. Please raise your hand if the PowerPoint presentation is visible to you. Okay. So we have received more than 450 registration this time, and from that we have selected 100 teams for the preliminary rounds, and those 100 teams have been divided into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Group A will be consisting of 50 teams and Group B would be consisting of 50 teams. Now further, from Group A, 16 teams would qualify to octa-final rounds, and from Group B, 16 teams would qualify to octa-final rounds. For semi-final rounds, we'll select the top 8 teams, and they will be going to the semi-final rounds, and 4 teams to the final rounds. This is the event itinerary, in which day 1 would be on 10th of March 2023, would be having a preliminary round 1 and preliminary round 2. For Group 1, it would be 9 to 10:30. For Group B, it would be 11 to 12:30. Then preliminary round 2 would start from 2 to 3:30 p.m. for Group A team matches, and it would be from 4 to 5:30 for Group B. The second day, 11th March 2023, we will be having an octa-final round, which will start from 11 p.m. to 12:30 p.m. Then we will have the quarter-final round from 3 to 4:30 p.m. And the last and final day, that is 12th March 2023, we'll be having a semi-final rounds 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and final rounds, which will be conducted from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The timing for all the rounds are mentioned in our brochure, which contain that how much time will the session continue and how much caucus session time you all have. The valedictory ceremony is on 12th of March 2023, which will start from 5 p.m. onwards. Now, this is the basic timeline of the event, which will continue in further days. Today was the workshop of SKMMIMNC Memorial International Mediation Negotiation Competition. On 26th of February 2023, we'll release the subsidiary rules, which would contain all the rest of the rules for the competition. 27th of February 2023, we will release all the clarification which you have sent us through the form. 3rd March is the last date of submission for your plans, that is mediation and negotiation plan. Who will submit the mediation and negotiation plan would be discussed in the further slide. 7th March will release the team matches, where you'll get to know that which is your side, whether you are a requesting party or the responding party, and whether you belong to Group A or Group B. 9th March 2023 is a dry run session. This day is very important for all the participants, because we'll be conducting a dry run session which would be as same which will be conducted on 10th of March. So it would be a great practice for you all that how these breakout session and caucus session would continue in this whole competition. And it's a mandatory thing to attend for all the participants. On 10th, we have the preliminary round 1 and 2. On 11th of March, we have the octa-final round and the quarter-final rounds. And on 12th of March, we have semi-final rounds and the final rounds and our valedictory ceremony. Now, these are some basic general instructions through which we have received many queries related to mediation plan and negotiation plan. So mediation plan will be created by mediator. They would create mediation plan. A total of 2 mediation plans has to be submitted. One would be for preliminary 1 and second would be for preliminary 2. Now, the thing which it should be noted is the document name. The document name should be team code MP for mediation plan, and then either preliminary 1 or preliminary 2. This format must be maintained. If this format is not maintained, then you would be we will have to keep penalties on that. Then second is negotiation plan. This plan has to be created by client and counsel. The document name should be team code NP requesting responding, then preliminary 1 and preliminary 2. These all the rules would also be mentioned in the subsidiary rules, which would be released on 26th of March. Now, total 4 negotiation plan has to be submitted by client and counsel. Requesting party, responding party for preliminary 1, requesting party and responding party for preliminary 2. Now, these are plans submission would be through a Google form, which the organizing committee will be providing you within few days. Now, the sample of mediation plan and the negotiation plan, which you saw today in the workshop, will be shared to you through the WhatsApp group by today. Now, some few more general instruction that only the mediators are allowed to share the screen, and client and counsel can join from one screen if they wish to do so. The score sheet of the competition will be sent to you after minimum 1 week of completion of the competition. We request you to have some patience for the same. And any decision with the organizing committee makes would be final, and no appeal would be there for the same. And we also reserve the rights to add any detailed regulation which would be, we feel it if it is necessary. Now, details about the confidential information. So the confidential information for the preliminary rounds would be shared to you 1 day prior to the competition. Confidential information for the round 2 would be shared after the completion of preliminary round 1. And for the other rounds, it would be shared after the completion of that particular round. Problems of octa-final and quarter-final round will be released after 3rd March 2023. That is after the submission of your mediation plan. And the problems for semi-final and final round would be released after 6th March 2023. Now, these are the list of awards which will be giving this year. The first one is the best negotiating team. The awardees for the same would be the client and counsel. Runner-up negotiating team, same client and counsel. Best mediator would go to the mediator. Runner-up mediator would go to the mediator. Best mediation plan would go to the mediator. Best negotiation plan would go to client and counsel. Best opening statement mediator. Then we have best opening statement negotiator. That will go to client and counsel. Then we have few more awards like best teamwork between client and counsel will go to client and counsel. Best relationship building with the other team will also go to client and counsel. Best creative solution, best acknowledgement of cultural differences would also go to the negotiators, that is client and counsel. Then best mediation advocacy would go to the counsel. And we also have an award for the first time participating team. Their best performance in the preliminary rounds, that would go to all 3 participants, that is client, counsel, and mediator of that team. This was all the basic information about the same. You can ask any question if you want by raising your hand.
Hi, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are audible.
All right. So I just wanted to ask you regarding the mediation plan as well as the negotiation plan. Has there been any specified format for the same that you need us to add the following details as well as the format like Times New Roman, the font size and all of that?
Yes, so we have a specific format of the same. These all specific details would be shared with you through the subsidiary rules, which will mention all the details of the same, that what would be the font and spacing. Also, this information is also there in the brochure. You can check in the rule book. We have mentioned that in the same brochure too. Also, we'll also share the PPT if you want in the WhatsApp group. Anything else? So we have final 100 teams this year, which will be competing from 10th to 12th of March, 2023. Thank you all for attending this workshop. Okay, so coordination with the other mediator. So you need to join your session 15 minutes prior to the timing given, where the two mediators would be put in a breakout room where you'll get 5 to 10 minutes to discuss about how you will go to the competition. You'll get some time to